evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Councillor Pauline Cowper, and I've taken over from Philip, as you remember, who used to chair this forum. So I hope all will go well. The first item on the agenda is welcome and introductions. Now, I don't know all of you. I know some of you, obviously. So, if when you speak, you would say your name and carry on from there, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much. I do have one lot of apologies, and that's from Councillor Sally Kenny, who was inadvertently not indisposed. Her daughter was, but other than that, I haven't had any apologies. So, sorry. Councillor Natasha Miles is on word. Yeah, says apologies. So now we come to the leader of the council, Councillor Stephen Alambritis, who is going to provide an update and take questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pauline. So I go to each of the community forums. So I've been to Race Park, to Wimbledon and to Colliers Wood, and I give roughly the same speech. It's not a local centred speech, it's a speech about the borough as a whole. So I will be referring to borough-wide issues in particular, and so that I'm fair to everyone, roughly touching on the same issues. But I do have an announcement to make today, and this is the first announcement, and that is that on Tuesday the 6th of November between 4 and 6 you're all very welcome to visit, tour the building and take a swim at the brand new Morden Leisure Centre in Morden Park, following a £13 million investment by the borough that will be opening on the 6th of November. Between 4 and 6 it will be what we call the soft opening. We'll have a more formal and official opening in the spring of next year, with hopefully a star-spangled swimmer, someone very, very famous, but we'll see what we can do. At 6 o'clock, normal service will resume, and leisure centre users will resume with the Morden Park pool programme delivered in new Morden Leisure Centre. The old swimming pool will be brought down, and every blade of grass that the new swimming pool is taking up will be replaced. There will be no loss of green space. So we want to thank Pelican, the company whose chairman and chief executive said that in all their time as constructors of leisure centres throughout the world, this must be one of the best placed or located leisure centres overlooking Morden Park. So, and I'll say a bit more about that and its financing a bit later. The key issues that the council is currently facing is, of course, like all other councils, finances. Every single local authority in London, every local authority in the country is facing a financial squeeze. But what I'd like to say and to confirm is that we are not Northampton County Council. We are safe, we are well managed, we are not in the business of allowing the government to come in and run this borough. And so, but there are very, very difficult times. And the pressures come from two areas: adult social care, a big area of national crisis, requiring a lot of money, and local authorities are doing their best with very little help, if any, from the government. All councils say that, all leaders say that, including the Tory leader of Somerset County Council and obviously the Northampton leader they went bust. Children's service under immense pressure. I see that the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Kelly Broad this year, Councillor Ellie Ward, carrying on the great work of Katie Neep, the previous Cabinet Member. So let's picture this. So in Cannon Hill Ward, where I live, there's been a 40% increase in over those living over 85 years of age. A 40% increase. And that provides a lot of pressure on that adult social care budget. On children's services, where we are the parents, we are responsible, we are corporate parents, councils are corporate parents. We're corporate parents for around about 135 children, and one of our clients, who I can't divulge, is the cost to both the NHS and to the councils about £1 million a year to quite rightly look after that person with severe disabilities. Quite rightly. Those are the pressures on all local authorities here in London and throughout the country. But the good news is that this council, by being business-like, has put aside £9 million this year into the future of growth in adult social care. £9 million, so that we do look after those vulnerable people, those most in need. And our children's services are in the top 10 in the country. Councils are inspected primarily once a year by Ofsted for their children's services. This is the inspection by which all councils have their reputation looked at by their peers. And when we had the inspection of our children's services, we were good with outstanding in 3 features: in leadership, in the all-important safeguarding area, and in adoption / fostering. So we're very, very pleased with that. Wandsworth, with half its council tax, inadequate. Wandsworth, with half its council tax, inadequate. And I think it is good that we here in the borough of Merton look after the elderly and the young, the most vulnerable in this area. So added pressures, in addition to those, are the fact that we've had a 63% cut in government support, and that's happened to most, if not all, local authorities. So what have we done to map a way through these difficult times for not only London, but throughout the country? What have we done here in the London Borough of Merton? Well, you've heard the adage share alike. Daniel Defoe, I think, and Robinson Crusoe, that's where it was first, that motto, that word was first devised, share alike. And we share alike with local boroughs to save money here in the London Borough of Merton, so we can look after the elderly, and we can look after children, we can build swimming pools and leisure centres, and build new schools, and help ASM come back into the borough. And that is by sharing services. So, if you read the Law Society Gazette, or any kind of legal periodical, about a few years ago, they were writing up the development and introduction of the South London Legal Partnership. That is now 5 boroughs with 1 legal team. So each borough doesn't have to have its own legal team, its own head of legal services. That team of 80 lawyers is based here in Morden, Gifford House. 80 lawyers do the legal work for 5 boroughs. The latest entrant, the latest council to put its hand up and say, we'd like some of that. We want Merton to do our legal work for us. That's Wandsworth Council, across the road. So 5 boroughs, legal work led by the London Borough of Merton, saving each borough hundreds of thousands of pounds. Not only do we share services on the legal side, but on the regulatory side as well. And that is licensing, trading standards, environmental health, any kind of licensing or inspection, especially of businesses, local businesses, counterfeiting, forgeries and so on. regulatory services, 3 boroughs, Richmond, Wandsworth, Merton. Richmond, Wandsworth, Merton. 1 service led by the London Borough of Merton. That's the lead borough in those shared services. Also, you would expect us as a business-like council to bring in income, to have income generation. And we do that in this very building. 3 floors here are let out, raising money, raising income. So we're sweating this asset. This 1960s building goes back to 1960s. We're still here, very proud to be here in Morden, at the heart of Merton, running the council, and 3 floors. And so when you see lights throughout the evening, a lot of the residents come up to us, Stephen, why are you wasting money? Why is the building lit throughout the night? It is lit for a purpose. It is the CCTV bank. Staff looking at 18, 20 screens to make sure this borough is safe, reporting anything they see 24 hours a day to the local police, so that things are safe. And we will see what we can do. We will continue to have events in our parks. I know there's been some concerns about notice to residents, about noise and so on, but we will continue to engage with residents and to sweat our assets, including our parks, and to have events here in the London Borough of Merton, so that we raise money. Given we haven't got money from the government, we raise money to continue to be able to look after the most vulnerable in our society, and our social care and children's services. Now, the time of austerity, and we heard from Theresa May that austerity had finished. There is no more austerity. But at the time of austerity, I think austerity will continue for some time to come. We need to provide hope for our residents during the time of austerity. And we provide that by, as I said, things sticking out of the ground. A brand new library in Collier's Wood, with a local developer investing £2 million in the library. Not the council investing £2 million, a developer in partnership with the council. They get their flats above. We get a brand new library for our residents, a dementia-friendly library, one that is the pride of the Alzheimer's Society. That's hope at a time of austerity, a brand new library that was shortlisted for the Library Awards by the bookseller, the prestigious and influential bookseller magazine, came second to Liverpool. I don't think that's a shame. We came second in the country, Library of the Year, to Liverpool, with all its resources up there. Big old Liverpool. So hope at a time of austerity. How many of you are parents here with school children? 1. But we have a statutory duty as a council to provide school places. We have a statutory duty. I cannot shirk that. I cannot say I can't do that. A statutory duty is the law of the land. We have a statutory duty to provide school places, admissions, and the parents here who are busy probably putting the kids to bed as we speak. We have expanded since 2010 23 primary schools, creating 4,400 primary school places, extra primary school places, with well-designed additions to the existing buildings. Not some porter cabin as an afterthought, well-designed additions. And in Dundonald there was opposition from people whose kids had been to school, were now at university, or had gone on to work. And I appreciate where people are coming from, but we have brilliant schools in brilliant locations. But we ticked a box for the parents, thousands of parents. And so for primary schools, I believe we did well by those parents, many of them getting their first preference. But now we need to think about secondary schools. And we've already started a brand new secondary school in a building that is an educational building with continued use in education. So further education was under threat from the government, and had we not given it to Merton College, we would have closed courses in mid-term. I wasn't going to put up with that. So we gave adult education to Merton College. You run adult education for us with classes for everyone. So that building, Watley Avenue, is now will be the first year, the second year, of a brand new Harris Academy School. 128 children in the first year. Oversubscribed. Already oversubscribed. More children next year, and hopefully, subject to planning, in 2020, a brand new school on the Hyde Park estate, subject to the planning committee. We have outstanding schools here in London Borough of Merton. Rickards, Ursuline, Rutledge. They've been joined by the Harris Academy in Morden. Does anyone remember Garth School? Garth? Yes? Bishopsford School? Anyone remember? Not good schools. They were letting down the school kids year in, year out. Now it's the Harris Morden. Ofsted came in this year. Outstanding. In that area, on Morden. Outstanding school. Serving our parents, serving the children. Children only get one opportunity, only one chance. There are no parents here, there's one here. But parents say to me, Stephen, please build those schools. When I see them in the road, in the streets, in the shopping centres, parents come up to me, say thank you, please, I've heard that there's opposition to this or to that. Please can you continue to do what you're doing? Please introduce this, please build that. That's people wanting things. Staying quiet at meetings, but afterwards they come up to me and say, I know I didn't speak up, but please build that school. Please build that swimming pool. Please build that line. And we'll continue to do that. And so, when you look at education, as I said, there's only one opportunity. The Department for Education, run by the government, does an annual analysis of boroughs, all boroughs, who are responsible for education, and says, let's see how you progress children from the age of 11 to the age of 16. Let's look at you. Let's see how you progress children from the age of 11 to the age of 16. And they allocate a scorecard to it. Last year, London Borough of Merton, best in the country, for progressing children from all abilities. You go to a grammar school or a private school, there may be selection, there may be tests. You start clever, hopefully you'll be clever when you come. All abilities, that is the art of teaching, to bring in and to progress children from all abilities in the same class. And this borough, last year, according to the Department for Education, best in the country for progressing children from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 4. So I've talked about things that stick in the ground. I'm coming to about 2/3 of my way, coming to things sticking out in the ground. Clarion is the housing association that runs our properties for our residents here. They're going to build 2,800 units with a £1 billion investment. 3 estates, Ravenspeak, Eastfields and Hyde Park estate. Their biggest investment, Clarion, one of the biggest housing associations. Those towers on the Hyde Park, do you all know what they're called? They're 3 towers. 3 towers. They're going to come down to be replaced by better housing that equates with what people want and where they want to live. Morden Town Centre, we have, I think we've got something coming up later, I want to talk about that. We have plans and aspirations for Morden Town Centre to pay tribute to the Conservative administration between 2006 and 2010 when they kicked off the War campaign. The recession came in 2008 and both parties saw a reluctance by developers, by the markets, as they say, to do anything more. But now that's picking up, and hopefully we're on the verge of subject to planning, but also subject to consultation with residents for the next 2 years about the Morden plan, the Merton plan, the London plan, the Wimbledon master plan, all that goes into a big pot, and hopefully that will lead to a regeneration of Morden town centre. Things that stick out around Wimbledon Park. Have you been to Wimbledon Park and to, is it Dagenham, Dagenham and that area where there used to be a football ground there, Plough Lane, I think. The club was kicked out of Plough Lane, went to Crystal Palace and found its way, booted by the Blazers and the Football Association, up to Milton Keynes. We weren't happy. They reformed in the year 2000 on Wimbledon Common, and they are now back in the league. They're above the franchise lot. They're in League One, not doing too well at the moment. But by working with them, the council, our planners, our Future Merton team, by working with a developer, Galliard, by working with the club, they now have planning permission for a brand new stadium at Plough Lane, in the same road, 11,000 seater stadium going up to 20,000 seats, with paid for by flats, housing units of around 650, with the affordability going up to 30% and hopefully higher. When we passed the planning permission, affordability was at a low 9.3%. But that, as we knew all the time, as Galliard started working with housing associations, Catalyst, Wonderland, that affordable element, including social rent, has gone up to 13%, and we hope that we'll be able to make an announcement very soon with the LGA and with the Mayor of London to get that up even further, if at all possible. And that's very, very, very important. And that was in the face of some opposition from Wadsworth Council, but we spoke to them, we sat them down, and they came to our view that it would be good for the whole area, including Somerstown and the borders of Wadsworth, for there to be a brand new football stadium with community facilities, as is hoped at Morden Leisure Centre. I've said something. Chris Parsloe is here. She will talk more about the nuts and bolts, and we're very proud to be able to deliver on the 6th of November a brand new leisure centre. And the Wilson will be a new National Health Service centre, rather like the Nelson on the Kingston Road. The Wilson will be a health centre providing advice and help for people who want to go into employment, and mental health will also be looked at there and hopefully funded adequately, waiting for more funding from the government on mental health as well. And we hope that the Wilson will be a Bromley by Bow style health centre. If you go to Bromley by Bow Health Centre, it's classed as the way to go. And as you know, we've worked with Transport for London for Mitcham Town Centre. A lot of work still needs to go into Mitcham Town Centre, and the front page of today's excellent newspaper, local newspaper that we have here, the Wimbledon Guardian, is all about the Wimbledon Master Plan. And so things are happening despite times of austerity, and I hope that you engage with a consultation, with engagement, stakeholder meetings on all these issues. And finally, from me, on one issue that we promised we would deliver in our election manifesto, and we are beginning to deliver it. We have kicked it off on the 1st of October with regard to the whole issue of waste, rubbish, recycling. Isn't it awful when you see television pictures of landfill sites, of rubbish being pumped, being put into our invaluable earth? Isn't that awful? We've got to stop it. And all local authorities are working together. And so on the 1st of October, we introduced a system that is not revolutionary, it's not radical, it's not out of sync with anyone, it is what everyone else is doing. 90% of all local authorities have what we call a wheel bin service. It's not come out of the sky, it's not brand new, it's not Merton blazing a trail. It is what everyone is doing, a wheel bin service to increase recycling. We hope our recycling will go from 37% to 45% and hopefully emulate Sutton Council, who have started the wheel bin service ahead of us, who are now at recycling rates of 50%. And we will have cleaner streets and make those savings of 1.6 million the first year and 2 million in the years ahead. And yes, there have been concerns about the whole issue of wheelie bins. And I describe it like this, in order to get to where we are. So there's a young couple, or elderly couple, or a middling-aged couple, and they love their front garden. It's beautiful. They worked on it for a long time, and they don't want the wheelie bins. They say the aesthetics of the garden and the road will not look good. We've got a lovely road here, Stephen, they said to me. And we look after our front garden. We really don't want those wheelie bins. We think they're ugly. We think they will not be nice for the road. That's John and Peter's. On the other hand, I have Michael, whose mum is 90 years old. She's at St Helier Hospital, and she needs to come home. Hospital is not a good place for someone that age. And Michael says that he wants his mum to come home, and he expects the council to make sure that her house is ready for her to come. And there will be social workers there when she turns up. There will be 4 visits a day, and then 3 and then perhaps 2. And if she needs a stair lift, that will be put in place. And Michael, who may live in Southampton or Newcastle or even Epsom, the law quite rightly states that the social services run by the council will look after his mum. So I see Jane and Peter, and I see Michael's views. I see both views. Michael and Jane don't know about them. Peter and Jane don't know about Michael's problems. And Michael doesn't know about the views of the young couple. But we as councillors do. We see both sides. And so we need to save money wherever possible, as well as increase recycling and have cleaner streets by introducing the wheel bin service. And we will get there, and it will be a good service, and it will lead to savings of 1.6 million pounds first year, 2 million pounds thereafter, so that we get to a place where we can continue to look after people during these difficult times. And finally, from me, we as a borough are proud of our partnering approach with the voluntary sector in particular. And at the last cabinet meeting, we passed a policy document in partnership with the voluntary sector to continue to fund that voluntary sector. I think it's very important at a time of difficulties when legal aid has been slashed and when there is a lot of changes to people's circumstances, whether it's benefits, whether it's this universal credit issue. And so we want to be able to fund the advisory services that are there free of charge for our residents. So the cabinet meeting, this council continued its commitment to the voluntary sector near £600,000 to £700,000 package, £43,000 to Women Who Guild for the work we do, £340,000 to Citizen Advice Bureau. I don't know if you've seen the queues outside, not just here, but in Lambeth and other boroughs that we work with. South West London Law Centre, just around the corner here, £56,000. Merton Council, Merton Centre for Independent Living, £80,000 for the excellent work they do. And Age UK, £73,000 for the work that they do. So we will continue to work with the voluntary sector as we plan ahead. And obviously with the uncertainties around Brexit dawning on us as we move towards March the 29th, 2019, it is important that councils are in a position to be able to look after people during these these times of uncertainty and during these times of austerity. Thank you for listening, and very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Are there any questions for Stephen?
The silver one, of course.
Gillian Clark, resident of Morden. Although I am in Morden, I'm very interested in the possibility of a concert hall in Wimbledon. Are you able to give us sort of an update of how things are progressing, or if they are progressing?
Yes, sure. There is a Wimbledon plan, as we say, and we have what's called a car park that is covenanted to Morrison's till next year, and that then comes back to the council. So one of the demands, one of the pleas, one of the hands that's gone up very, very quickly was by Wimbledon Court Society with their plans for a Wimbledon concert hall, and that is in the mix. They have to provide the money, shows that they can deliver, and that it can be sustainable. So the councils are left with a white elephant, as they say. But they are in the mix, talking to us regularly, and I'm talking to Stephen Alambritis, a local member of Parliament for Wimbledon as well. I think he's very supportive. But as a council, it's in the mix, and I'm always talking to Anthony Wilkinson, who's pushing for that very, very articulately and imaginatively.
Thank you.
I've got some questions about Veolia and waste collection.
Yeah.
What is the Veolia's calling? What are Veolia's plans to actually sweep the use from streets, gutters and drain systems, so they will take us by surprise as they did last year? Why would you really going to receive different designs? They're completely different dimensions and completely different designs. And was that an error of the supplier? Was actually planned? Because one would assume that it would be cheaper to get identical units. And several households have received the wrong leaflet regarding their new refuse collection. So what's been done?
Yeah. Well, first, apologies for that you acquired by several households have received the wrong leaflet, and several households have not received their wheelie bins on time. So we have regular meetings with Veolia, impressing upon the need to correct those mistakes, wrong leaflets, and wheelie bins not delivered on time. What has caught us by surprise is the demand for food waste cabins, which is good. It means that people want to allocate and sort out their food waste, so it doesn't go into the wheelie bin. So there's been a big piece of work there by Veolia, by the huge amount of interest and request for the food waste cabins, because as you know, people come and go and so on. On the leaves, yes, I would expect them to not be taken by surprise. Leaves fall every autumn, and to do everything they can to clean the gullies and the leaves as they did last year, but painstakingly. But also don't forget our Christmas tree collection. That is a job of work as well. Obviously, the odd one creases around the place, and people take great jollity in saying this one is still kicking around, and 30,000 have already been collected on time and to the contract stipulation. So I expect Veolia to correct those mistakes, and they are doing that. We're reassured that everyone now has their wheelie bins. And I was on the phones and people wanting their wheelie bins, which is really, really great. I was on the phone and people were saying to me, Stephen, where's my wheelie bin? Why haven't I got my wheelie bin? And people come up to me and say they want wheelie bins. Yeah, there is a job of work to make sure that the system settles down. It will take a bit of time, and we are pressing on Veolia to make sure they rectify any mistakes and to make sure the system works smoothly. They've got all the issues they have. Now on the wheel bins themselves, as long as they can be different colours, they can be different outlays, or they can be puffed up or slimline, as long as they're of a universal nature that they can fit onto the trucks. That's all that matters. And they are. And so that's very, very important.
So just to go back to the news last year, you did manage to do the news last year, which is one of the huge issues in the land. Weeds in gutters and roadsides and in the streets, so just taking on that one. And in terms of the weeding things, so I can say something else
That's all.
but who's starting on this? Who's paying for the weeding? Is the council paying or is it?
The wheelie bins and the trucks belong to the council. It's our
So the
property.
council will pull the
Yeah.
trucks as well, I think.
Yeah. No. They belong to us. It's the council's. Yeah. It's the
So are
council's
the same
assets.
trucks, are the trucks the same design that were used in the recycling?
So we've got new trucks that sometimes people are looking out of their net curtains or blinds or whatever they're called, and they see the operative just chucking the thing in there, and they see it from the side. They think they're just chucking the food and the recycling in the same compartment. They're not. They're two completely separate compartments. One for the food, one for the recycling, and then there'll be one when they come for the rubbish and the food and so on and so forth. So, the new trucks are state-of-the-art. They have cameras for all sides, for the safety of the operatives, for the safety of the residents, and for us to make sure that they're doing the job right. We can look at what's happening, what may be going on. I don't know all the new ones. I think there are some with different sizes, for slimmer roads.
I'm just wondering why we get this, those different dimensions.
Now, as I said, the wheelie bins are the same size. As long as they're the same size height-wise, the trucks can take them.
Yes,
The bottom silver one.
Okay, I understand my name is Parsloe. I understand the statutory duty to provide school places. My background is in education. However, as I'm sure you are aware, there does seem to be contradiction going on with this site of the new Paris Academy. The Evening Standard covered it recently, that we have Merton Council, the Harris Federation, and the Department for Education who are claiming that the air quality is safe there, yet Civic has identified the site of Merton Abbey Primary, obviously the same area, 50 most polluted school sites. So I think there's great concern in the community about the air that the students will be breathing, the traffic that will be created from construction and when the school is running. And I wondered what you have to say to that, basically. Can you speak to that contradiction? Where do you...
There is no contradiction whatsoever. The Mayor's report is well placed. It talks not only about Merton Abbey, but it talks about a whole series of schools throughout the whole of London where air quality isn't what it should be. And there are schools throughout London that have poor air quality. And that is something. So what we will do as we plan a way forward is we will have our consultants with a paper on air quality that goes to the planning committee. It is for the planning committee to be reassured by the Department for Education, by Harris, who are experts in schools, and by our own people, that the air quality is fine for there to be a school there. And there are a number of issues, a number of measures that we can all take to make sure that as we build a school, that it is safe for our children. So, you build a brand new school in central London, there will be air quality issues. But the construction, the builders, the government, the local authority will do everything they can to make sure that the air quality does not adversely impact on the children. And that is what we're doing. Everything will be up before the planning committee, including issues on air quality. And we will look at the Mayor's report and see what we can do to make sure that if there is to be a school there, it's all subject to the planning committee, that the air quality issues are foremost in our minds. And there are a number of things one can do in terms of schemes around trees, around fencing, around which way the classes face, and so on. But I don't want to belittle the amount of work that we need to put in to make sure that the planning committee is reassured about the air quality issues. We as a council take that very seriously. We introduced a special levy on diesel cars to encourage people to go onto electric cars. And there is a very, very minor levy, about £35 on electric cars, and we've just announced more electronic vehicle terminal points to encourage people onto electric cars. We have a great policy on cycle routes here, but also cycle training for the school kids and so on, free of charge. So we'll do all we can, but in any construction, in any planning committee meeting, which is democratically elected and takes advice from professionals officers and technical officers, there will be officers there on flooding, on air quality, on transport, on parking, and I would imagine because of the way in which the air quality issues come to the fore, as you said, the standard and the mayor's office, we will work with all of them, not with the standard, but with the mayor's office, to give as much as we can reassurance to the planning committee, and it is for them to say whether they're satisfied or not on those air quality issues. For me, that satisfies me that the planning committee will make that final decision based on expert advice from whoever is big in that position, and the mayor's report will be looked at as well.
Okay, so there will be explicit discussion between the mayor's team and Merton Council.
Yeah, we have our own strategy on air quality that we share. Every borough has an air quality strategy they share with the mayor.
Okay, I shall watch with interest.
Thank you. Yes.
Just to add on to what's just been said, that we shared earlier that shared environmental services.
Our regulatory services. Yeah, regulatory services.
And I assume it's them that set up the air quality monitoring outline path.
No. Regulatory services are about weights and measures, trading standards.
So there is a joint council.
Yes, so inspections of businesses.
Richmond,
Wandsworth, Merton, led by Merton.
Richmond, Merton, and
Wandsworth.
Monitor air quality. Monitor air quality.
Yeah.
And they did set up an air quality monitoring site at Hyde Park, around out of 9 months, only 3 were going.
That will go to the planning committee.
Good. The other question I had was, there 23% of primary schools have been expanded.
No, 23 primary schools.
23 primary schools have been expanded, but I've heard that now there are some primary schools that aren't getting enough children trying to go there. Is that because there's a problem with children's numbers, or?
Well, the whole issue of children and what we call bulges and so on, that comes and goes, but you have to take a decision at any given time on evidence you're given from the Department for Education. And by expanding those 23 primary schools, we created 4,400 extra primary school places that have been taken up. Now, what's happened since, it may be in some areas, but it doesn't mean that you were wrong to do that. Yeah, we have. I think we speak to the government on school statistics virtually on a weekly basis about where people are moving in, children, or where people are giving birth to children and so on. It's a live picture.
Can I ask another question? You said that 40% increase in over 85-year-olds?
In Canada Law. I think that's a couple of years ago I remember seeing that statistic, but I can give you the latest.
Yes, but I'm more interested in not what the latest figure is, but what the time scale is for that increase.
Oh, yeah, I can get that.
10 years, 20 years.
Yeah, I can get that. Okay.
Thank you. You mentioned there's 24-hour-a-day CCTV.
Yeah.
The Battle Close site, when it has spotters entering it, how long did it take them to notice and what should they do about it? I understand that.
Yeah, it was pretty quick when it was looked into.
And in terms of 2 more items, what the avenue, you said to save for education, but I've heard that once the new secondary school is opened, and what the avenue sites, those are then turned into residential,
You touch.
It's whatever one say.
At this moment in time, it's an educational use. What is going to happen? We don't know. No decisions have been taken.
In terms of Hyde Park, the 12-storey towers.
Can I just ask, is this the last question?
Yes. Okay, that's all.
Go ahead.
I'll be really quick.
We've been televised.
The Hyde Park estate, where there are 3 12-storey towers, which we know are not very attractive, there are going to be 10-storey blocks there, which you're saying people want to see housing. People don't want 10-storey blocks. I appreciate there's need for housing, but they don't actually want 10-storey blocks. And in terms of Wimbledon master plan,
So you're in 1 minute. Okay, go on.
the heights there are also thinking about that 14 to 16 story in Wimbledon town centre living master plan, and again, that is what people actually want, and that's identified in the workshops that were held by the council several months ago.
On height, we need to take the lead from the Mayor of London and from the government. Where there is connectivity, where there is transport, density can increase, and height as well. Let me finish. So at Wimbledon Town Centre, you've got rail, tube, and tram. You've got all 3 modes of transport. No other borough has that. And so when you have rail, tube, and tram, plus your buses, and hopefully Crossrail too, when that happens, the instruction from on high is density and height. Now, I'm not saying that it justifies 50 or 60 stories, but it does justify height. I'm not in charge of height policy. The Mayor of London is, and the government is. More than South Wimbledon Tube Station, you have South Wimbledon Tube Station, and that does lend itself to increased density. All you need to look at is density policy from on high, and that will give you. Yes, people don't want high rises. Yeah, but we have a duty not to have high rises. We have a duty to provide housing. We have a duty to provide housing where there is connectivity, so that people don't need a car. So I would imagine if a couple bought a flat in the centre of Wimbledon, a brand new flat, following a building of such flats, that because of the connectivity and the immense transport opportunities, that they wouldn't have a car. So you have no car clauses in the contracts, and so on and so forth. And so, as I said, there are people who want Wimbledon to stay as it is. They're happy, they've got their house, they love the town centre as it is, and they don't want anything to happen there whatsoever. Thank you very much. And I get this all the time when I go to meetings in Wimbledon. I get, can you please privatise our road? We have a road, and we don't want cars going through it. We just want it blocked off at one end and the other. I get a lot of requests like that. But we as councillors, as I said, with regard to the couple who want their front garden vouchsafed, and the son who wants his mum looked after, we also get to hear from people who want housing. They're not saying they want high stories, but they want housing, and we just have to see what we can do. Well, Wimbledon Town Centre is an interesting town centre in view of the fact that the commercial side is so close to residential. So, with Compton Road and Hartfield. So we'll be mindful about that. But it lends itself to office, to a mixed use, but office, leisure. But the Wimbledon plan will be available for all residents to have a look at. And a lot of people will be able to contribute into all that. Everyone, stakeholders, lobby organisations, David Dean, Stephen Hammond, everyone will be able to have this. And everyone's voice will be equal.
Thank you. Is that all to say?
Cool.
Just a quick question. Is my notes correct? At the beginning of your talk, you said that contextualise that figure? Give a time scale? To say whether it's on top of something else?
So adult social care is 43% of our whole budget for both children's services and adult social care. Of that 43%, 92% is adult social care. So, it's quite a huge chunk for adult social care. I'll get you the figures. The growth budget item that we put in a couple of years ago of 9 million. I'll get you the figures of how that pans out with what it's compared to. But it is interesting that 43% of our budget goes on adult social care. Huge question.
Which should probably be typical for most boroughs, though.
Yes. So I'm not saying we're anything special. We will, as a borough, each year renew our commitment to making sure that we look after those people. It gets more and more difficult each year.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else who wants to ask the question?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
I just have some clarification, sorry, Councillor Stephen Alambritis, some clarification on the adult education form and adult education program. I noticed that on the agenda for the cabinet meeting this Monday, there is indeed, it looks like an agenda item about the use. They have an email from any disabled teacher interested.
Yeah.
The council obviously basically said residential once education use is declared surplus suggested by the London Borough of Merton. I noticed in the next stage it says that it is no demand, but clearly residential is on the table for that site.
There's no decisions to be taken. Yeah, the cabinet is the decision-making local authorities, decision-maker, the cabinet, then that can be called in by councillors, and then there's a huge debate, but we will look at all options as we're doing at Battle Close as well. You wouldn't expect a local authority to say that we're never going to have housing in X or Y, or we're always going to have X or Y. So you always, as a council, keep your options open. But we're pleased that there is a continued education use in that property.
Just okay, I need to like to get that
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Some familiar faces and some not so familiar faces. I'm Christine Parsloe and I'm the lead officer for the new Morden Leisure Centre project that is taking place at the moment. I'm pleased that the leader has been able to share with you this evening. You're the first people to know the date and the time of the opening because it's only just been finalised. So press releases will go out tomorrow on that. But please do come along on the 6th of November at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you are a swimmer, make sure you come with everything ready to go for a swim. Because somebody suggested we do require people to wear clothing when they go swimming now. Just to give you a little bit of background, I normally do you a nice PowerPoint presentation at this point where I show you all the different stages we've been through. I've deliberately not done that today because I want you to experience it when you go and visit it. If I showed you some of the pictures of the interior at the moment, it might not be quite so exciting when you get there because you'll have seen it all before. So I'd rather that we're so close now that you just come along and experience it. Construction was completed by Pelican 17 days early. They're very pleased and proud about that. Practical completion was signed off at the beginning of September. And Greenwich Leisure moved in and started fitting out the building. It's a big place to fit out. They've got to get all of the equipment in. And also, they have to train all of their staff. They also have to keep open the Morden Park pools. Because part of doing this one was that we're not allowed to open the new centre, we're not allowed to demolish the old centre until the new one's open. So the Morden Park pools is still operating, just about. And I've said that at every single meeting I've been to, I think for the last 4 years when I've been talking to you, it's still open and it's still going, and we'll get there just about. But they are doing all the training and development, and they're fitting out the facility. So if it looks like a building that's not being used at the moment, I can tell you it's like a beehive inside. It's just that on the outside the bees aren't swarming outside anymore, they're all actually working very, very hard inside. Outside you're seeing a few changes going on. Some car charging bays have just gone into the outside, into the car park area. They're not live yet to use, so if you do have an electric car, you have to wait a little while. We've just got to connect up the electric, but those are in, ready to be used. In the next week or so, you'll see a traffic management order going out, which would just be around parking controls, particularly taking in the disabled bays that will be right outside the leisure centre. So these will be brought into the traffic management order for parking enforcement. For a person who spends my own time coaching disabled people, I'm very passionate about making sure that people that can move around and don't need to be parked in disabled bays actually don't park there. And that those people that really need disabled bays do get the right access to those. They're right outside the centre, so they can get in and use the centre, because that's what we want them to do. But we do want to make sure that if anybody wrongly parks there, they get penalised for it. And they need to understand that they are there for a specific reason. There are 10 bays right outside the centre. There will be a 3-hour time limit on it. I hope that everybody gets through their exercise in 3 hours, because we want to make sure as many disabled people can get through and use the facility as well. So that traffic management order will be coming out, and that's just to make sure that we can put all those regulations in place. Other things that are happening, we've appointed the demolition company to start the demolition. Demolition will start around about the 13th of November. Again, you won't see anything happening quite so much. There won't be any big bang to bring it all down. They've got a lot of work to do inside the old Morden Park pools before that building can come down. But once that's ready, it will come down quite quickly. So we're just lining all of that in. Newsletter, you're due a newsletter. It's in its draft format. It will be out very, very soon, just giving you updates and some human interest stories, which I like to put out in the newsletter to just share with you some of the people that have been working on the project behind the scenes. Many faces that you never get to meet, but through the newsletter at least you can learn some of the experiences and some of the activities that they've been involved in. And so the next one of that will come out shortly, and then there will be a few more until we get to the end of the demolition. After the demolition, that piece of land where the existing Morden Park pools is now returned to open space, and that's to replace the footprint of where we've just built on. That was always the concept. We had to give back open space for that which we had taken away. It's a very, very tight site, so it's there. But just really to remind yourselves and myself is that right at the beginning of this we did a public consultation about what most people wanted. And I look around this room and I know that you all voted for the number one, which was, what's the most important sport and leisure facility you want? Cafe! So as soon as you walk through the door, the cafe is there. It's not there at the moment, it will be there on the 6th of November. The second most important thing was the ability to be able to do diving. That's in there with the movable floor in the secondary pool. The third thing was extra water space. The size of the pools are greater than the size of the water space in the existing facility. It's just configured in a different way to meet more modern day needs as opposed to those needs of some 50, 60 years ago when construction and local leisure needs were very different. And then it went on, and hopefully we've managed to get everything. There's your 100 station plus fitness suite, there's the studio come community room, well, when you get to see it, you can let me know what you think of it. Good, bad, or indifferent, I'd be happy to hear. The next thing that we will be doing is basically, tomorrow we will launch the opportunity for people to pay a sum of money to bid in a silent auction into the Mayor's charity to be the first person to swim in the pool. So if you're interested in that, it'll come out on the news release. You can go online, you can do your bid. The money will go to much needed charity, the Mayor's charities this year, our Colour House Theatre, and Friends of St Helier, just round the corner, which is really important for where the facility is located, and also for those people within the immediate neighbourhood. I'm sure that you're all rushing now to the website. It's not up yet. Tomorrow it'll be there. In terms of anything else on the leisure centre, it's practically there. I'm hearing from people that they like it, that it looks stunning. I'm hearing from some people they don't like the colour. If you don't like the colour and that's all you don't like, I don't mind. I may even try and encourage the leader to invest in some of those sort of 3D glasses with some coloured filters in, so you can change the colour if you really don't like it. But actually, it's a lovely facility from the outside. I've seen the inside. Some of the councillors here have taken the opportunity to go and see the inside, and they'll share with you what they think in their own ways, in their own times. But I'm not here really to tell you how wonderful it is. It's for you to now go and see, you to go and enjoy, and me to get on with the finishing it off and doing the demolition. That's all I've got to say on the leisure centre, except to, before I take some questions, a couple of things, because I always like to do a bit of marketing while I'm here. Fireworks display, 3rd of November at Morden Park, 5th of November at Wimbledon Park. If you haven't got your tickets from Morden Park, I would say get online and get them early, otherwise you have to queue on the day. So they're there for you ready to take. And the other thing is here, on the 11th of November, which might seem a long way ahead, but in my little world it seems like tomorrow, we will be commemorating the end of World War I in an international commemorative event called In Time from the Battle's Over. You can Google it and find out all about it. In true Merton style, it will be low cost, inexpensive, and it will be made successful. Why? Because you will come. So it will be local people doing an appropriate commemorative service and singing. And if you've got a bell, even if the children come, bring a bicycle bell, bring a bell, because there will be a moment at 7:05 for ringing the bells. And if anybody goes to a church and they haven't yet registered to ring the bells at 7:05 on that night, they should be getting onto that website and registered now, because all church bells are being called to ring. At 7 o'clock there will be a beacon lighting outside. The Civic Centre foyer will be open. I've planned for the weather. Instead of having a gazebo that we'll all have to huddle in, so it'll be open. We will be doing, with Merton Music Foundation, we'll be doing some World War commemorative songs and singing. So if you don't know the words, get and look them up now, so you can all join in. It'll be a very, very short 6:30 till 7:30, with then some refreshments afterwards to commemorate the occasion. So please do join us. So fireworks and the battle's over is my marketing. And with that, I finished and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Chris. Does anybody want to ask any questions? Yes.
Hi, you say the centre's finished 17 days early. I believe it said it was going to be open in September at one point.
Well, I don't know who you were listening to him saying
Yes,
it was going to be open in September. He was using poetic license, I think. The construction contract was always to be completed the 21st of September. So the day we signed the contract, we knew that the construction would be completed the 21st of September under contract. If they'd extended anything longer than that, there would have been penalty clauses on it, and so they didn't. And then what the leader probably wasn't aware of was that after construction takes place, the fit-out has to take place. So I think he possibly was overzealous at that moment in not understanding quite so much how long the fit-out does take place for just Regeneration to come in and put everything in. And also, this is new building with very modern-day equipment in, so they do have to do quite a lot of training in that. They're all great trained lifeguards and everything else, but there's a lot of equipment that they have to make sure they can use properly.
Thank you.
Yes.
When the old centre closed the night before and the new one opened, or will there be a bit of overlap?
Great question, because you haven't got the answer. What I'm talking to Greenwich Leisure about at the moment, just from a practical implementation point of view, is we're talking about closing Morden Park halls at noon on the 6th of November. And then the staff will be moving things that they need for the other centre across to do the final bits before we actually open to the public at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it just gives us a window, 4 o'clock. So it will mean that Morden Park pools and no swimming facility or no leisure facilities available for 4 hours on the 6th of November. Yeah, and all those people that would ordinarily go in at that point in time, Greenwich Leisure will make sure that people know that on that afternoon there won't be anything, but at 4 o'clock the new centre will be open. And then that's why we planned particularly the opening to be just a small slot of, at this stage, of a couple of hours for people to go and have a look, so that the leisure centre can get back on with their programme. Because ordinarily there will be clubs and there will be other people that are regular going to the centre, that kind of thing.
And I just want to say thank you. I've heard you do these presentations now about 3 other times, and you all were very upbeat and very good. And thanks for that. You've done a great job.
Thank you very much. My day will be 6th of November when you come and you smile when you see it. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah, hi. Abbas from Merton Commission Group. One of the things we know that health inequalities in certain parts of Merton are increasing, particularly around obesity, diabetes, chronic heart disease. Are we going to be working with Merton CCG, public health, to look at issues and projects around GP referral, making sure that some of our deprived communities can afford and access services at the centre, and making sure that we do enough promotion to make sure that people actually use the services that are now open at the centre.
Thank you. The answer is probably yes, because that's what you have to do. But it takes a lot of work to do all that. What we have done so far, and we do that in our other centres anyway, but what we have got in this particular centre in the design is we've got a large secondary pool with a movable floor. That means we can have it small enough at the tops, right the way down to deep water. We've also designed that area so that it is not overlooked. And when we've been doing the design of this, and some of you will have heard me talk of this before, my mother was 22 stone. My mother loved swimming. My mother only came swimming when I was a teacher and could give her exclusive use of the swimming pool at the school that I was teaching in. She cried the day I left teaching because she couldn't go swimming anymore. So I said I never wanted that to happen to anybody else's mother. So the pool that we've got is built and could accommodate. My mother went to Weight, but any one of them that she could have gone to. It could cope with any of that. It's whether we can get the people to come and use it. The depth of the floor will go up and down to various levels. So for somebody who isn't, I'm not a strong swimmer. I might look a strong swimmer, I'm not a strong swimmer. I like to be able to put my feet on the bottom. Alright? So the floor can go there. So I can swim in a bigger pool without having to swim widths and then get all these people that are swimming down the lakes, moaning at me because I'm getting in the way. No. In the other pool, you can swim across, you can swim the length because it's pretty much the same way. It's 15 by 13 metres. And in that way, if I need to be in a group where I can put my feet on the bottom, I can make sure I attend a class where the depth of the pool is that depth for me. Similarly, if you've got mother and baby, mother and toddlers, it can be even lower. Just so that it's very, very safe. The design of what we put in is great, but not just in the pools. The gym upstairs, it's 100 station fitness suites, everything from free weights to machine weights to treadmills to stairs, whatever. The studio is a massive, large studio. When I took some of the councillors there, they were starting to see whether they could get a council chamber in the room. I had to stop that. But it's a big room. There's room for everything from yoga to all sorts of activities. But it's really about the people wanting to come and use it. And it's then working with the public health in order to make sure that those people want to use it. Because it's that whole thing, isn't it? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I hope that what we've created there is something where people want to come. And I hope that the community, which I live in this area, I know these people as my neighbours. I know that what they're very good in doing is getting their friends and their neighbours who don't normally come to come and have a look. And if I get them to the cafe to have just a nice cup of tea or something, because there will be healthy options in the cafe as well, if we get them that far, then maybe they'll take the next step and get joined in. But it's a long-term plan. The first stage is getting it built and getting it open. The rest of it is really down to everybody, not just in this room, but everybody in the community to make happen.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you. And I'm going to see you all on the 6th
Yes.
and the 11th,
Yes.
and maybe even at the fireworks on the 3rd. Thank you very much.
And now it's the turn of Merton Health and Care.
Thank you.
Would
Yeah. I'm happy to sit here if that's all right. Yes, okay. So my name is Abbas. I'm the Community Engagement Lead for Merton Clinical Commissioning Group, and I'm here to talk about our committee elections for 2019-20. This is a programme of work which has resulted in us going out to see over 20 organisations across Merton, ranging from voluntary sector groups to community organisations to patient groups to faith communities, anyone that would really like us to come talk to them about their experience of using healthcare services across the borough. So Merton's DCG are responsible for buying, planning and monitoring local healthcare services for everyone in the borough. We work with over 20 GP practices, and our local partners include pharmacies, hospitals, dentists, mental health providers, the council, community groups, including Health Watch. Our main aims are to improve health and well-being, reduce health inequalities, and ensure everyone has equal access to healthcare services. So why am I here today? We want to work continuously to improve the services provided by the people living in Merton. We can only do this if we speak to patients, local community groups, to gather their views on the services that they use and they feel need improving. And to do this, we are holding, as I said, a series of meetings with community groups and patient groups, starting in August and will finish in November. We are using learning from similar work from last year to improve community conversations this year, and hopefully produce a report which will help determine our commissioning intentions for next year. So our challenges, as lots of people will be aware, we know patients have to wait longer than they would in terms of access to services. The NHS, as we all know, is facing some unprecedented financial challenges. The quality of some of our services is variable, and not all our NHS buildings are in the best condition and need repairs. We know that having good access to psychological therapies remains a challenge, and we know there's an expected growth in our population, which will put pressure on services now and in the future, and there's an increasing demand for new treatments and therapies. So we're thinking about priorities. These priorities have been set with our statutory partners, the council, our voluntary sector partners and our providers. They're set under 3 headings: staff wellness, so integrated support for children and families, emotional well-being and mental health, live well, well-being and long-term conditions, mental health and well-being, defining age well, dealing with complex health and care needs as we get older. As I said, we've been doing some work with groups and organisations, and what we've been told so far is that continuity of care remains a priority for people in Merton, with particular reference to ongoing support managing long-term conditions such as diabetes. And the reason I'm late to this meeting today is I've been upstairs speaking to 15 diabetic patients about improving care across Merton. Accessibility of services is key to lots of people in Merton, particularly the services they have to use regularly. I was at a meeting yesterday and GP practices were highlighted as an area of concern. People can't get appointments. There is a significant support for integrated health and social care services. Services do not always feel patient-centred and do not always take into consideration the background, preferences of an individual. People in Merton place a lot of value in terms of therapy support and other specialist services. However, people did report concerns about the capacity of some of these teams and their ability to recruit and retain good staff. People are very positive about the move towards encouraging wellbeing, independence and self-management. The social prescribing pilot in East Merton has helped and has been mental health, we know mental health is a clear priority for people in Merton, including young people. And access to mental health services was raised as a concern, particularly for services and common mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. So the two questions I'd like to ask the group today is, what services have you utilised in Merton, and what services have you, do you think could be improved? Before I move on, those are the two things I'm really keen to find out, and those are the questions that we've taken out to the 20+ groups across the borough over the last 2 months.
Thank you very much, Abbas. Does anybody have any questions of Abbas?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say that I'm in the middle of treatment for lesions on my face. 2 week rule has been invoked and is working brilliantly. I thought the scars to prove it. And I'm extremely grateful, and God bless the NHS.
Ginny, can I ask, was that at St George's you had a treatment?
No,
It's okay, that's very good to hear.
which was much better because I'm still waiting for some shortages.
Is there any questions? Yes.
Is there a website or something to feed into this that you just ask these questions? Because I don't think we can really do that.
I'm happy for people to send me, email responses. I'm happy to give you my email address. I know it's quite difficult to kind of think of the kind of concerns people have. But I'm talking about in the rounds of the kind of, is it GPs that you like? Is it something which we need to improve in terms of the time that you get an outpatient appointment to use podiatry services? What do you think of diabetes services? Those are kind of the wider kind of issues. I'm happy for people to email me responses, but I'm happy to take questions tonight as well.
From my seat, I think you get a more comprehensive, better, usable response if people send you information.
Okay.
But I think if you want to put your email, people respond.
Yeah, sure. I'll make sure people get on email Friday. But just in terms of what I've heard from meetings previously over the last couple of weeks, GP access has been a major issue for lots of people. People say that they still ring on a Monday, can't get an appointment. And people are also saying they don't know too much about the GP hubs, which we've invested quite considerable resource in at Nelson and Wide Practice, which run from 8 to 8 and on weekends as well. Is that kind of reflective in terms of people's views? They don't know about the hubs, they don't know about these early hours?
Hi there, yes, Dickie Wilkinson, I'm independent from our board. I think you've got a number of points there. So first of all, I personally don't mind holding my hand up and saying accessing the mental health services has been appalling to the extent that I just gave up. That's absolutely fine. I'm a little bit concerned that you say that you're having these conversations every year. GP access is the ongoing thing. So actually what I'd like to hear from you, and also know that mental health has been an ongoing concern about the council for a long time now. But actually I'd like to hear from you, not seriously from us, because you keep telling me what the problem is. Can you tell us how you address those?
So the GP access one, as I said, we are investing in the hubs. People who can't get an appointment at the GP practice during the week can now get an appointment at either a Nelson or a Wide Practice. We've seen an influx of people using the hubs at Nelson. We've also been, we're just about to start a campaign of winter, which includes flu and using up services appropriately. So we're promoting the hubs at GP practices. People going to their GP practices over the next 2 or 3 weeks will now see staff wearing these big metallic badges saying, please tell us about the talk, please ask us about the GP hubs. We are doing some work because the number one kind of complaint from lots of people is that you get through on the phone but you can't get past a GP practice staff member in terms of getting an appointment. So we're doing some training with staff. We're also making sure that patients are educated in terms of what service to use. You know, if you've got a cold or a cough, you can go see a pharmacy. If you have something more serious, make sure that you tell your receptionist that it is an emergency. I'm not saying that we are getting it 100% right, but we are investing in making sure that there's more appointments during the week. And the feedback that we've had from people that use the hubs has been very positive. Your issue around mental health has been picked up in terms of people that said they can't access IAPT, which is the access to talking therapy service, and they say they have to wait, as you said, quite a long while to get into that pathway. We are now re-procuring the mental health talking therapy service. We're looking to improve mental health services across Merton. There is a working group taking place at the moment. I'd be happy to feedback or ask one of my lead commissioners from mental health services to come and tell you about that work. But I think it's as a result of that kind of recognition that mental health services have to improve across Merton that we're doing this work at the current time.
I think perhaps if your email
Yeah, sure.
interested.
That's fine. So my email is Abbas, like the Swedish group, but with an S at the end. Mirza, Mirza, at swlondon.nhs.uk. And I'm happy for people to kind of send in responses or ask any questions about the presentation.
I'll make sure that the email address is in the notes of the meeting as well.
Sorry.
I'll make sure that the email address is in the notes of the meeting too.
Thank you very much. Yes, now can I just take one from that gentleman?
Are you involved in the possible closure of St Helier acute services, maternity and so on?
I think closure is quite a harsh word to use. We're working on a programme around reconfiguration of services.
Moving out of our area.
As I said, I'm working on the reconfiguration of possible services at Epsom St Helier. No decisions have been made, and colleagues will be aware there's been quite a number of engagement activities taking place across the borough. All I would say at the moment is that I'm part of a programme team that has been working with groups and community organisations, making sure people are aware of what's happening and also being able to give their views on what's happening as well. I hope that answers your question.
Can I just add to that? Merton Council is at one with making sure, by working with residents, by working with the local medical provider, which is all we've done, to make sure that no services are reduced at all at St Helier Hospital. And there is no closure of any services, no closure of the hospital. And that if there is to be any reconfiguration, that the main hospital, the main area for us remains at St Helier Hospital. We will do exactly what the Lewisham Council did, which is to man the barricades to make sure that our hospital, St Helier Hospital, which serves the vast majority of people in Morden Division, in particular, the private public ward stays exactly where it is, with all its services intact.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I've got two questions for comments. In terms of encouraging people to go say to a pharmacy when the groceries are talking about. I took my father a few weeks ago to a pharmacy for exactly that, so my assistant pharmacist was absolutely useless. But the elderly going around, she didn't even bother to say, please sit down, I'll look at your throat. So unfortunately, it was a torch, she was dedicated to my out of the way so she could actually see his throat. Very half-hearted and never so good. So in terms of trying to do the right thing, we got nowhere. It would have been fair enough if she said, I can't see anything, go to a GP, but she didn't even do a proper approach. I could have done this myself. And the second question I have is, I've been involved for the last couple of years with a project exactly to try and get more people exercising to improve their health. And from what I can understand, the project has failed completely to engage local GPs to actually refer their patients for free walking and exercise sessions. How, and the project is part of the council, how on earth do we
can't talk on individual circumstances in terms of pharmacies, but we are promoting pharmacies as an alternative. No pharmacist, I would say, would look down patients' throat because they're not clinically trained to do that. What they will do is ask basic questions and say, you know, this is what I suggest, you know, you might take these tablets, you might need this cream. If it's something a little bit more complicated, they will say you might want to go back to your GP. So, I'm trying to defend my colleagues here, but some of them just have their own very small consulting rooms where they give very good advice, and they provide people with a little bit of assurance because they don't need to go to their GP. The thing around working with our GPs around exercise referral is a very hard task. You know, I've worked on projects like that. I've worked on diabetes projects where we said to patients that, you know, the GP will provide you with a voucher where you can have 5 free sessions at your local gym or 5 free sessions to swim to kickstart that process. It's really up to the individual to take that responsibility. And I'm sure a lot of our GPs do provide people with information about local projects. I mentioned the social prescribing project in East Merton. That project is really looking to kind of keep people away from their GP and looking at people that have depression, that probably need some help with social isolation, to get them out of the house, to meet other people, to kind of, you know, take their dogs for a walk, to just get them out of housebound conditions. So there is some work going on, but a lot of that relies on people to take that responsibility, to kind of say, I want to get up and do something. So it is very much around that self-management kind of, that theme to kind of say to people, take some responsibility for your own health. But also I do believe that some of our GPs do need some help and support to kind of say to people that, you know, I'm not going to give you a tablet, but, you know, do you know there's a walking group, or do you know there's a green gym that you could join, or do you know there's a peer group where you can just go have, you know, a cup of tea during the day, you know, to socialise with people. So it is about reinforcing those messages, and hence I made the point around the new sports centre. You know, people need to kind of see it in a holistic way that, you know, if you go to your GP and say, look, you know, I've got bad back, the GP might say to you, you know, have you tried, you know, doing a little bit of swimming in the new sports centre? Those are the type of kind of interventions that we're looking to kind of work with GP practice staff, GPs and the general public. I hope that's all right.
Now we have an update on the Morden Regeneration program. This
Yep.
I'll do the talk from here. My name is Stephen. I'm in the Future Merton team. I'm the project lead on the Morden Town Centre Regeneration Scheme. My colleague next to me is Kate. She works with me on this project. And at the previous time we were here, we were talking to you about all the due diligence work that we are doing. So that is appointment of a whole suite of consultants to do lots of specialist pieces of work in preparation for the procurement of a development partner and with the local plan. So we'll talk a little bit maybe after one of our consultants, Jacob Lister from Canada, has done a presentation on a summary of the most recent consultation work that they've carried out on behalf of the council.
As Ethan said, I'm from Canada. We're a specialist public consultation and stakeholder engagement company. We've been employed to assist in the more modern consultation. So as Ethan said, we've recently had some stakeholder engagement in the form of focus groups, which were held on the 17th of September, and I'm sure a couple of people in the room will recognise me from them, and also some public information drop-in stalls, which were held in 3 locations around the town centre, outside Sainsbury's, outside the Iceland, and inside the tube station as well. Those were on the 19th, 20th and 22nd. The council kindly advertised all of this on their Twitter feed, and Councillor Alambritis came down to the and helped kick off the the public consultation events. So I'll just quickly give you a run through the focus groups. So we invited a wide range of stakeholder groups to the focus groups, including religious organisations, local business groups, elected officials, and accessibility and disability groups as well as residents' organisations. To these events, they were organised by Canda and Hawkins Brown, who were the project architects at this stage. At these events, we talk about a number of key design principles that we'll be looking at for the future development of the town centre, including the station forecourt, the fabulous green and open spaces that we have here in Merton, and the High Street in particular. Attendees at the focus groups had all focus groups had very constructive discussions. A full and frank exchange of views was had, which is fantastic from my position as a stakeholder engagement person, and brought up some fantastic points, such as improving pedestrian experience along London Road. Having spent 3 days sort of by the side of London Road, I can say from personal experience, the pedestrian experience does need improving. You've got, they wanted to emphasise Morden's already excellent green spaces and link them up more effectively. And they also wanted to see more active frontages along the high street in order to encourage people to stay and shop and enjoy the town centre as it should be. Then, so essentially on that point, that was a very brief summary. We are in the process of compiling all of the information that was gained throughout that process. It was a full day of discussion, so quite a lot of elements were raised. Then the public drop-ins, they were held over 3 days, as I said. Over 150 members of the public came by, stopped and had a chat, which is fantastic. At these events, we engaged with, used a number of means in order to get residents' feedback on what amenities they like in the town centre, what they would like to see in the future town centre, and how they use the town as it currently is. So we used a number of different means, including a survey. We had maps on which members of the public drew their routes through the town centre, from where they live all the way through to their ultimate destination. They pointed out areas of interest to them, areas that they spent quite a lot of time in, and also areas where they felt safe and areas where they felt unsafe. Then also, we also had a board present asking people what amenities they would like to see and what they would like the redevelopment of the town centre, any redevelopment of the town centre to emphasise. Members of the public once again focused on the fantastic green spaces. They also stated that they'd like to see an improvement to the retail offer within the town centre, insofar as making sure that there's a diversity of retail options throughout the town centre that meet the needs of the whole community, as well as improving the look and feel of the town centre. There was also quite an interest in improving the nighttime economy within the area. That was raised across both the focus groups and also by the public. People wanted to see more restaurants. They wanted to have the town centre be a little bit more lively after people get home from work, which is obviously quite a nice thing to do. People would like to find some more diversity of places to go out and eat. Residents, however, as their number one issue, raised traffic congestion and pedestrian experience. So, particularly through the town centre and on London Road. That was their number one issue. Now, what we're going to do with that information is we're going to make sure that your views from that are continued through in any future iterations of the town centre we develop. In terms of future work, we're currently developing a new project website, which should be live in the next few months. So taking all of the previous information from Morden and just refreshing it a bit and making it more accessible to the public, and then through that what we're hoping to do is run a number of online engagement methods in order to continue to allow people to feed in to the consultation process.
So just a quick on the next steps. Some of the major next steps are end of this month through November. There will be at least 6 weeks of public consultation on the local plan. So a lot of this work that the Abbas Brown, the architects, the consultants, and I just to clarify, all the consultants are jointly appointed between LBM and Transport for London, who are major landlords in the town centre. So it's a collaborative effort to deliver this regeneration, and the works will feed into not just the local plan, but also into the procurement for a development partner. That is aimed at starting early next year and will take approximately a year, maybe a little bit more. It's likely to be an OJU procurement, so quite a complex lengthy procurement to get the ideal development partner. And then at the same time, the local plan is going through its statutory stages, and we are aiming on schedule to adopt the new local plan in early 2020. And then works to commence on a phase 1 target at about 2021. So that's currently the program. I'm sure you'll have loads of questions, so I'll open up to that.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Hello, my name is John Foster. What I think is the latest you could tell us about potential family extension, especially since TfL is joint partners in this project, and any design of this whole area out here would have to be moved successfully with family extension where it actually go ahead. Has the mayor got in front of his side of that anyway?
Thanks for that. I should have mentioned it with the local plan. At the same time as the local plan, so from 31 October for about a 6-week period, there will also be, this will be separately run by TfL, a consultation on the tram. So at this stage, they are at an early stage. I'm not sure of committed funding. There's actually quite a lot of funding just to get them to this engineering stage, the viability, but the actual implementation is still further off the business case. So I will let TfL respond in fully to that. But what is fortuitous is that, as it happens, Hawkins Brown, the award-winning architects that we procured for us to do some high-level strategic design work, have also separately been appointed as the lead designers, urban designers for the tram works. So there's a good synergy there. We have to accommodate the tram. The tram alignment, as you, I hope I'm not letting it out of the box, there will be in the consultation, the routes are not fixed yet. There are probably 3 preferred routes. That's part of the consultation, and one of those routes comes, of the preferred routes come down Morden Hall Road. So the design team have been aware of this for quite a while. We've got a specialist steering group that's been set up with the councillors represented there, and all the different streams of transport engineering that you can think of. It's a large steering group, specifically in TfL, to coordinate the buses, the surface, the pedestrian, the cycles, the trams. They are sitting there too. So it's all in an attempt to coordinate the planning and the operational part, including the tube on that. So some work's still begun. The financing, as far as I'm aware, is not quite there yet, but I think during the consultation it would be a good question.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, yes.
I was just wondering, I really like the very recent court parade, and I was just wondering, did that come under part of the regeneration, or was that something separate? Will we be getting more of that kind of thing, which I personally like a lot?
I like it too. And the Royal Institute for British Architects also liked it. Hence it was nominated, but it didn't quite make the final award. That was funded by so we continue to, as and when funds become available, we submit funds for all bids for funding from anybody's basically to help us fund. And that funding comes from the Mayor of London on region projects. So that is part of the regeneration. So that was an early intervention. So I know that there was a lot of pressure. We got, what can we do to the rear? But there's only so much money in the funding, so much resources. So with that money, we did that, as you can see, the works to the front. So that was seen as a gateway. It was called the gateway into Morden. And there was also some planning work. So we did from the architects, Jan Catane. They developed a design guide for all shop fronts, so we can use that as guidance for as and when all shop fronts applications come in for changes as guidance. You may have noticed there's one or two that have not quite followed. You can't force them; it's got a relative amount of weight in planning, but you can try.
Thank you.
This was probably the main thing I wanted to hear about today, and I know it's a very long time and it's very intricate. When you mentioned having a website, I'm just curious, how can we, because these meetings are only quarterly and the time is very limited and the scope of what we can get into is very limited. What can we, you mentioned the website coming on, but that's, it sounds like it's not going to be soon. How can we keep up to date with where things are going in the interim on a reasonable basis?
Thank you. We have our own council website, which is the Morden website, which is part of the wider council website. So if, we can send a link around in minutes today. And on the website we provide more information as to what's happened so far and how you can get in touch with us. We also send out regular newsletters. They are electronic newsletters, so you don't have to sign up to them on the website. But I can take the details today and we can sign up for that. And we try and provide as much information through those websites and through the newsletters as we can. Like Jake said, the new website we're going to kind of develop, it's being developed with TfL. So it's kind of the next stage of the project. So that's going to be, I believe, interactive to some degree. So once that's up and running, it should be hopefully before the end of the year. And that's going to be get more involved in that.
We're talking, a couple of few months, not, not those. But it's a few months at maximum, but it will be very interactive, regular updates to that. But in the meantime, sign, if you don't get it already, get the Morden newsletter so you can sign up for that online. It's brilliant and tells you everything. It will tell you when we're going out for more consultation events and how you can get involved. I'm sure everybody gets online newsletters and stuff into their inboxes, but it is well worth getting involved if you love it.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Stephen Alambritis. I was on one of those focus groups, and I I am a little bit concerned because I was involved as an observer in the High Park consultation, certainly a few years back, and it was very much would be nice if everything was nice. And he felt that they were being promised all kinds of things, and I remember at one stage some politicians at the day last year they would have their own back garden, for instance. And of course, none of that was feasible. And so what actually happened in that kind of vacuum that happened as a result of that stuff, creating their own visions of what they expected to happen. What I'd like to see in this is being able to say as soon as possible what is genuinely possible here in terms of development and what has to be done to make it possible. Because of course nothing in this world is easy. Nothing falls from one of those things here, I'm sure that.
Obviously just a quick, more like a statement, but also a comment to that statement.
Sorry.
No problem. And one thing to make clear, and we repeat it often, and it needs to be made clear again and again, is that there are no detailed designs yet. It's been agreed that we will go through this procurement, we will appoint a suitable development partner, and once we have that development partner, that's in collaboration with the development partner in TfL, we will work up the details. And that's when we will be able to say what truly is. So we can go now, we have to go to get it into the local plan with as high-level principles, what we want. We need a certain amount of flexibility with a certain amount of certainty, but only the detail of what will actually happen. Will you have a back garden or a balcony or not? That's very important is down the line, because that would be disingenuous to state that kind of detail at this point.
So I really support this. I'm very, very excited about it. You know what I think you need to ask about it sometimes too. So just a few questions. I would like you to clarify where the money is coming from. I gather it's there before this. I just said there in response to Councillor Draper's comments that you can't say anything definite, yet in the time that this has been discussed, at the last presentation I think you gave yourself evidence to my local resident association, it was going to be 1,200 houses. Now that's 2,000 houses in a smaller area, which happens to be in Ravensbury rather than Merton Park, I believe. So the density has gone up quite significantly. I know that's due to housing targets being tripled in this area anyway. And why is procurement taking so long? Every single issue of Morden since 2014 has been saying, yes, next year we will secure a development partner. Now that seems to be 2019, but you have been saying that every single issue since 2014. And finally, how will your 6-week consultation take in local businesses? Because every time I go into the local cafes or have drinks in the local pub, no one knows anything about what's going on.
There's about 4 questions I can't get out. The funding one is a tricky one to answer at this stage because it's under negotiation. There's a commercial element, so we're entering into a partnership with Transport for London. The council has freehold land, that's common known. The TfL has freehold land, and that's obviously something that needs to bring any development forward. You need the land to be able to build on that. And then there's hundreds of separate interests in land. So we don't have all the funding. If we had the funding, it would have happened way back. So that has always been an issue, and it's a known matter. We had a series of what's called soft market testing. So we had about 10 different of the the major developers who could do this. We had confidential discussions with them to tease out what are the issues, what are the risks, and of course that's where we, and that influences our negotiations with not just Transport for London, but also influences the funding and how the funding will work. And as I was saying earlier, we are submitting bids for it to be that cabinet funding that comes available from government or GLA funding. So we submit bids where we can to do any kind of gap funding to try and de-risk that. But we're at a tricky stage at this point for me to tell you in an open situation exactly where we are. But as you know, when we have meetings, I can maybe give it frank on that because it's commercially sensitive. It influences the procurement potential.
Thank you very much. Can I just
Any other
remind
questions?
everybody that we have another item on the agenda, and our secretary has to disappear by 9:15. Or we have to get another secretary in. So, it will all be in the minutes anyway, all the contributions.
If there are any other questions, we're happy for you to take that.
Can we move on to open forum?
Morden region?
One is very, very quick, just a question. What is happening with the dog control orders? It's been a year since the consultation took place, and it's all gone very quiet. I have chased it a few times, but nothing seems to have happened. The second question is London Borough Merton trying to get rid of adult education? The course fee for the course I have been doing at St Thames College and Merton College again has gone up from £300 to £425, to rise by 42%. I can't afford that. I haven't enrolled there were three advanced classes, two of them are closed. I'm now going down to Sutton College, who is running the same course with the same tutor, nearly £100 cheaper. Is London Borough Merton trying to get rid of what I call ordinary bog standard adult education classes? If so, that is really sad.
Nick can answer on dog control orders.
I've actually answered both of them.
Aren't you lucky?
As I've said to yourself, first of all, on adult education, and not only do we wanted to keep adult education going, but we are keeping adult education going. We are making improvements in adult education. 3 years ago, we were very strongly into the requires improvement area. We run to waste and loss. Now, one of the questions about really exactly the budgets in the situation. And we're still quite improving. We know that the legislation we reach good. As far as our courses are concerned, there is a slight change in courses. We do want community courses, including one things. Not all of those prove to be sustainable, and that's just the nature.
Well, because they put the prices up. They ran last year and
the reason we put the prices up was they weren't economically sustainable. They were running at a loss. But the other courses, particularly ones we can get funding for, extremely well. We have to work within the budgets that we have. As far as dog control is concerned, yes, they should have. I'm upset that they haven't. There have been various legal problems they worked on. They will have plans.
Going back to adult education, by putting the prices up so much, people aren't signing up, so they're closing the classes. So we're getting even less now than we were before.
A I'll repeat what I just said. If you're running a class at a loss, it doesn't matter, and the more people sign up, the more it actually costs us. What we have to do is actually price our classes according to what they actually cost. We can't subsidise classes for adults.
But why can Sutton run it at £100 cheaper?
You have to ask Sutton.
I do, because I'm a governor there.
Well, there you go. If Sutton are prepared to run their classes for loss.
They're not. Then we've got a class of 20 people, and some of those have come from Merton, because they can't afford the
I will find out. If I can find out how Sutton are running theirs at a profit, what ours is
Sure. Well, I've actually emailed the person responsible.
Right, thank you very much. Yes?
What is the last question related to that? How is it that the more students on the course, it costs more?
So if the cost, if individually, the cost is that, and so that subsidies is low, the more students there are, the more it's going to cost. I'll explain to you.